Hi, and welcome to Filmmakers Compass Podcast, a show where we talk about movies and, well, more movies. I'm D-Man, joined by CP, and we have a great episode in store for you guys. CP, how are you doing today?
Dude, I'm kind of excited, but I'm also a little nervous. Apparently, we're actually going to do some learning today, and that's not something I'm accustomed to on this podcast.
Well, we're normally just, throwing jabs and talking about specific things related to movies, but today we're going to go...
James Gunn sucks.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. But today we're going in a slightly different direction, and I'm very excited about it because it's unlike anything we've ever sort of done on this podcast. We have a new style in store for our listeners. And not only that, we have a guest. So we will get to that in a little bit. Before we do, let's go ahead and jump into our shout outs here. First up is a shout out to Alex, who actually said, finally sat down to catch up on FCP. Keep up the awesome job on the podcast. And a hell yeah, which I know is a Stone Cold Steve Austin reference.
Why are we referencing Stone Cold?
We love old school WWE.
Okay.
So he said, D-Man, thanks for the shout out on your new episode 121. You guys touched on this. Worth the watch. Don't remember if I've shared this with you. And that was a reference. Superman Lives. The Death of Superman Lives. He actually shared a link, which we can share on our stuff. It's on YouTube. I believe you actually shared it with me as well. And I've watched part of it.
Oh, to watch the film?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it kind of
there.
Dives in deeper into the whole mess surrounding that. Next up on our shout outs, though, let's see. I don't know if you saw this. We got a DM from Catnip the Movie. They actually reached out to us and said, hey there, our director, writer is doing a bunch of podcasts. Lately, we're spreading the word. We did two the past couple days, and would you like to join us, basically? I do that as a shout out. One, Catnip the Movie, congratulations. It sounds like your promotion is going well. We're excited for you guys. And throw it out to the listeners. Is anybody interested in having people on to promote an actual movie that's coming out in the near future? Because that sounds pretty exciting. I know I am. I think you are too. But any feedback is welcome.
Yeah, I'm actually super excited, and I'll drop this as a spoiler. I'm actually a producer on Catnip the Movie.
Well, then it's definitely happening.
All right, so we can talk a little bit more about it.
And then finally, just a shout out to all of our new followers this week. I don't know if you saw across our social media channels, we actually picked up quite a few new followers. So just wanted to say welcome. Hope you guys are enjoying the podcast, or at least some of the social media content we've put out. Thanks for joining the FCP community. Yeah, hope you guys enjoy the show.
D-Man.
Yes.
Following up from last week, I don't think we've decided on an appropriate punishment for you failing to wear your Beetlejuice costume on the episode where we talked about Beetlejuice. So I'm going to throw this back out to the listeners unless you got something brilliant.
No, I mean, it sounds like I don't have to do a punishment as well.
No. Winezettel said you should have to wear a Purdue shirt, but I thought that would be too mean and not really effective because Notre Dame crushed Purdue.
Many people listen in audio form, so I mean, I could just lie.
Yeah, he actually could.
I wouldn't. I would be wearing it, but I could lie. We'll have to see. I mean, there's got to be something fun we can do. I'll leave it up to the listeners to throw it out at me because that could get cool. Well, CP, that does it. I'm going to throw it over to you for our box office breakdown.
All right, everyone. So it's time for our box office breakdown. Now, when we look at the box office numbers, there hasn't been a significant amount of change. Reagan's at number 5. That was number 3 the previous week. Deadpool and Wolverine is at number 3. That was 2 the previous week. And the number 1 movie is still Beetlejuice. Now, there are 2 new movies that appeared this past weekend, did arrive in the top 5 of the box office. And that is the documentary, Am I Racist? At number 4. And number 2, the horror film, Speak No Evil. D-Man, the Speak No Evil thing really kind of baffles me because I feel like it has been pushed really, really hard since about April.
Yes.
Every movie I saw, regardless of the genre, the rating, I feel like I saw this trailer, and that kind of makes me always skeptical of a movie that is pushed that hard.
On one hand, we've talked in the past about movies that didn't get an appropriate push, and then the movie fails, a la probably Kevin Costner's Horizon. I really don't think people knew enough about that film going into it, and they were hoping that fans of Costner, and particularly Yellowstone and all of those franchises, would turn out in droves, and they wouldn't have to spend buku bucks on, the marketing and getting the trailer in front of everybody. But then there's sort of overkill where it almost feels like this movie's being pushed so hard. It's almost like they don't have any faith in it. They don't have any faith in the word of mouth. So the only way is to just throw money and add time, airtime at getting it in front of people and just hoping that people are like, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, it made $12 million the past weekend, which it's like a Blumhouse film. I can't imagine it was made for a record amount.
I was going to say, it's within a genre where budget budgets are usually within reason. It's also appropriately released in anticipation of like the fall season. So I think it's the right time if you were ever going to do it. By and large, my guess is the movie will probably make money. I can't imagine they spent too much on the film itself, but the marketing, how much did they spend?
I mean, I'm willing to bet that it was like double the budget, maybe even triple, because they pushed it so hard. It was kind of a shocker.
Hopefully people know about it. That's the important thing. I think where movies, they always fail is when people just don't even know they were coming out.
Back to Beetlejuice just for a sec. And we kind of brought this up on last week's episode, but I just wanted to follow up again. It's made $260 million in the worldwide release, which there's been a huge cult following of it here domestically. Again, what's really telling about that is only $76 million came from the international release. $190 million came from the United States. That's not the norm with most of these major box office successes these days, right?
I think you hit on it very well. It's a cult following. I think it's sort of a niche market here in America for people that grew up with the original. And I don't know that the original releasing in whatever it was, 1988, probably didn't reach a mass audience worldwide. I mean, at that time, you're not even really releasing most movies internationally other than in a few major markets. I'm just assuming it's a legacy sequel that never reached international fame. And so this is probably many people's first experience with Beetlejuice. So I'd guess that makes sense.
Well, the other thing too is this is a film that has a lot to do with death and the afterlife and ghosts and things like that. And those don't always necessarily translate well internationally. You know, as I'm looking at the box office performance around the world from this past weekend, there's only like 3 or 4 places where Beetlejuice was the number one movie. It was France, it was Germany, it was Iceland. For the most part, everywhere else, it was still Deadpool and Wolverine killing in the box office or Alien Romulus.
Yeah, I would suspect Alien Romulus would do better internationally. Beetlejuice is using a sort of specific style of humor, and humor can be lost in performances, you know, once you're translating or you have dubs or whatever. So that can be lost as well, where like they have a couple songs that play. I mean, if you're from an international audience, that might not mean anything to you. Humor, I think, is a little bit more difficult to go international with because it's like it takes a certain level of relatability as well as, you know, you have to be in on the jokes. Like if you don't get it, you're like, I don't get it. Why does anybody even like this movie?
Alien Romulus is exactly what we're talking about. It's made $230 million worldwide, but only $100 million domestically. And why? Because aliens and aliens eating people actually translates really well, regardless of what language you speak.
It's a universal theme. It's easy to grasp. It's a visual story. Beetlejuice to me just strikes me as something that I mean, I could have predicted that. I might have if we go back a couple weeks.
That's the box office, and we will see what this next weekend's does. Now, just a couple exciting notes for everybody watching. This upcoming weekend, we have a lot of anomalies in the box office. We have the Return of the Matrix for the 25th anniversary.
Yes.
Saturday, the 21st is Batman Day. We are getting a special exclusive screening of the very well reviewed documentary Superman, the story of Christopher Reeves, as well as Mask of the Phantasm and Batman Forever are both returning to the theater. So it should be a really interesting box office weekend next week.
I don't think it's a secret, but can we just acknowledge how awesome Mask of the Phantasm is?
Oh, I know, dude. I already bought my ticket. I'm so pumped to see it.
I know, that movie's amazing. I actually watched that. Shout out to Anthony. We just watched it one weekend when we were here because we were like, dude, that movie's so dope. And I always feel so bad for Bruce Wayne in that movie. So
I know. Spoiler alert, Batman is Bruce Wayne, everyone.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then I know Batman related coming out later this month is going to be Joker 2.
Yep.
Which I've heard up to this point has been getting somewhat mixed reviews. I feel like people either really liked it or they were like, ooh, definitely didn't like it. That's always interesting when you get a polarizing movie like that. Sometimes that's enough to actually generate some box office because people are like, I want to go see if I like it. I think the worst is when people are like, it was all right.
Sometimes, right?
Then you're like, ooh, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to waste my time. But if some people are like, dude, this movie is incredible. If you love the first one, it's awesome. And then people over here are like, this movie sucks. Okay, I might have to check it out though.
All right, D-Man. I guess it's guest time, huh?
All right. Well, CP, let's go ahead and dive into our main topic this week, which is pretty exciting because we're not necessarily talking about a specific movie or anything, but today, in honor of World Gorilla Day on September 24th, we have a guest. With us today is none other than Selena Niblett.
Thank you for having me on here to talk about gorillas and primates and all things that I'm passionate about.
Oh, well, it's such a pleasure. We're really happy that you're here. I know there are quite a few movies that have either gorillas specifically or primates, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit. But before we dive into any movie talk or anything, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
I'd be happy to. I've been in the field since about 2008. Man, that was a long time ago.
Well, you
Like,
say
it's
that,
got
and
a
I'm like,
different
where was
feel.
I in 2008? I don't even know. I think I was like still
Yeah.
down in San Diego or something. I don't know.
Been working in the conservation, the zoological field since 2008, and that mainly has been at different facilities, most of them in Southern California. I've worked in several different capacities, mainly education, but also as would be a wildlife care specialist, zookeeper, animal caretaker, taking care of a lot of animals, basically. And I've
Gotcha.
spent
Yeah, that's what it
a
sounds like.
long time doing. I absolutely love it. It's something that I'm passionate about. And I've been blessed and I'm still grateful to this day that that included working with primates, Western lowland gorilla. And I was able to work with them for about 5 years. They're the longest primate that I've ever worked with. And I loved every second of it. For the past 2.5 years, I have been in graduate school. I'm getting my master's in conservation biology.
Nice.
I'm doing my program through Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. And the graduate program it's pretty cool. You're in the program during the summer. You get to study abroad at different conservation hotspots. I've been to Baja, Mexico. I've been to Malaysia on the island of Borneo. And I've also been to Kenya, where I was in
Wow.
Nairobi, Kenya,
So
studying
abroad
and
means
learning.
all over the world.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about World Gorilla Day and what that is? Is it a celebration of gorillas? Is it to raise awareness? What is that all about?
So World Gorilla Day occurs every year on September 24th. That is a day where gorillas get attention worldwide. It's a day to talk about gorillas, raise awareness, get that education out there. Organizations and have a mission of gorilla conservation will reach out to the public and have events, fundraising, just a day where you have awareness and a focus on endangered gorilla species and trying to make the world better for them, which also makes the world better for us.
Well, I'm just saying, September 24th, World Gorilla Day. It sounds like a day where you could have a movie marathon of movies with gorillas. So
I think
that's
that's a
how I
great
see
way.
it. Yeah, that's how I see it.
Christian, did you intentionally wear that shirt today?
I did, because it's a monkey. And I wore this one because it's Smithsonian. I figured that's promoting conservation. I try to theme my outfits, as D-Man knows, but does not do because he sucks sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
it's
true.
like I got to get a shirt with a monkey, and or something. The
Well, just so you know,
WWF would
Donkey
probably.
Kong, he's an ape, not a monkey.
I know. I'm sorry.
Did you?
He is technically a gorilla, a great ape.
A great ape. We don't know what kind of great ape he is, but we know he's a great ape. Fun fact about primate. You have monkeys and you have great apes. So great apes, of which again, humans are a great ape, are different than monkeys.
Don't
What do you
monkeys
think
have
that difference
tails?
is?
I don't know.
What did you say, Christian?
Don't monkeys have tails?
Yeah. Didn't
that
I? I
it?
feel like I told you that before.
You probably
I did not know.
Maybe
But
I
yeah.
just spent a lot of time reading about monkeys. Did you ever think about that?
Well, no, because you said Donkey Kong was a monkey and he doesn't have a tail, which makes him an ape. So you don't know. Monkeys have tails. Great apes do not. There are 5 types of great apes. There's humans, gorillas, orangutans, bonobos, chimpanzees, and then there is a lesser ape, which are gibbons. But those are going to be your ape species. Anything else is going to be like a monkey or macaque. If it has a tail, it is not a great ape, but it's still a primate.
Okay, so they still share like a genealogy, but they're different. I don't know. When it does come to using gorillas or for that matter, live animals in movies, what are your opinions on that? Because obviously we've shifted a lot towards using CGI and CGI characters, but is that something that you think helps bring awareness to the animals and everything overall? It's an opportunity for people to experience these animals, even if it's just in a movie theater? Or is that something that you're like, no, don't like it?
It really depends on the context of which things are happening and the message being said.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
If I'm watching a movie where behavior is inaccurate, even the location is inaccurate, using this animal because it looks cool or something,
Sure.
then, it's not going to be very beneficial.
So like, does that piss you off in the moment where you're like, ooh, no, whoever's in the room with you, or if you're next to somebody, you're like, nope, that's not where that gorilla would be? Because I feel like that's me, like when I'm watching like Lord of the Rings and I'm like, oop, they got that wrong. I don't like it. But Steph, my wife, she's always like, would you shut up and watch the movie? But like, I can't let it pass, you know?
I mean, there will be times if I'm in the movie theater and I'm really excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll call things out. I will. I can't help it. I can't help it.
I know,
I
me
can't
too.
sit there and watch something and be like, but that's
Yep.
not true. Research has shown that how animals are depicted, how they are shown, social media, movies, film does have a long-term effect on the people who consume those.
Interesting. So, for instance, like if gorillas were portrayed as monsters, you think of sharks and Jaws. It creates this fear of the animal where people are A, scared to go into the water, but B, just scared and terrified of sharks in general, when maybe that's not actually the case. You look at things like King Kong and how, gorillas specifically have been used. I mean, I could imagine that there are portrayals where people walk away from movies feeling that way.
So, for example, just to kind of steer away from gorillas and primate species really quick, just because like you brought up King Kong, and I do have a question for both of you regarding this topic too.
All right, good.
Yeah. So get ready. Let's like totally switch it to something else. I want you to think of the moments that you see a tiger in a movie.
I'm thinking like Jungle Book.
Right. Do you ever see a tiger doing something else besides attacking,
like
got
aggressive.
a hunt, or do you ever see it doing something else besides that?
I'm running through movies in my head really quick. I'm trying to think like, were there any tigers in like
the
Night
movie
at the
Two
Museum?
Brothers. It's about two baby tigers that their mom is killed, and so they're trying to like raise the baby tigers without their mother.
Okay.
It's from like 2003.
Well, I mean, it's
I
not a
believe you.
tiger, but Lion King, Simba was singing and stuff. That was cool.
Those are fair
I'm sorry, it just took
examples.
me a second to realize what you just said.
The point that I'm basically trying to get across is most likely you only see an animal portrayed one way. There is a whole bunch of behaviors that aren't shown.
When you think about gorillas, the movies that you've watched and that stick out in your mind, what do you think gorillas are like? How do you think that they are in the wild? Tell me about gorillas and what you know.
Well, from the movies that I've watched, they're really good at making spears. They like to abduct blonde women, and sometimes they can fly in space. I'm just kidding. I think that the biggest thing that movies depict gorillas, for one, they're always shown as really strong and kind of threatening. But I think the other thing, and based on my understanding, like they're always depicted as very, very smart and expressive. That's what I got. D-Man?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first things that come to mind are like King Kong and Planet of the Apes and stuff. But also I think of like, even if it's just an animated film, like the Tarzan movie by Disney, where they were actually like not that, they were his family in the jungle. So, I mean, like you said, I mean, I've seen other movies like Mighty Joe Young and I don't know, a couple of different ones where it makes me think aggressive, but smart. That would be how I would describe it.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just talk about the basics of gorillas. And then I want you two to kind of let me know, is that properly portrayed in the media?
Okay. All right. This is good.
And I'm saying in majority, right? Because there's always those like exceptions. There's always like that one or two films where you're like, they got it. Awesome.
Love it.
So there are 4 species of gorillas. But all gorillas are found in Africa, basically in equatorial Africa. Equatorial, equator, they're found in the middle part around the rainforest, right? And they are a social species, which means that they are going to be around other gorillas. They live in family units, and these family units will have one dominant male known as the silverback. And the reason why they're called a silverback is because they have silver hair from the very top of their head all the way down their back. And it actually can even go down the leg sometimes too.
I do have a question about that really quick. Is that random and then that person takes over the role of the silverback, or is that something that happens as the gorilla takes on a role?
That is going to be the case for all male gorillas. sexual dimorphism in gorilla species, the males are going to be 2 to 3 times bigger than a female, and they're going to have that silver back, but then they also have what's called a sagittal crest, basically the top of their head, but it's that crest that kind of like goes up.
Sure.
You have one silverback that is the boss, the big guy, and he's the one that has the females, and he gets to breed with the females and have the babies. The other silverbacks in the troop, they might be tolerated. Most likely what happens is that they will satellite themselves on the outside of the troop. So they'll like come and go and kind of like be on the outskirts, but they're not in the troop because the head silverback is not going to want them around so that they could try and breed his females. Might tolerate them, especially if there's familial bonds there and they grew up together or they have a certain type of relationship because they are social. So they have all different types of relationships with each other. You also, too, you have bachelor troops where males will live together for a certain period of time and they kind of like practice sparring and they figure things out until they're like ready to go do their own thing.
Sounds like a fraternity house.
A little bit.
I have a random question. I'm just going to ask it. I know that you said that gorillas are specifically based around a patriarch, I guess, with a single male in charge. But aren't chimpanzees kind of the opposite, and aren't the females in charge of a?
Okay, so chimpanzees are similar to gorillas in that they have a single alpha male that leads the group. The species that you're thinking of is bonobos.
Oh, okay.
They look very similar to chimpanzees, but they are separate in more than one way. So chimpanzees, let's like just boil it down to 2 big differences. Chimpanzees, as we just learned, are patriarchal, where they have one alpha male. They are also incredibly violent. You were talking about making spears. Chimpanzees actually do make spears, and they hunt other species of primate. Yeah.
That's wild.
They are like people.
We are like them. Bonobos are matriarchal, so they have a female that leads the entire group. Young males, so if you're born into your troop, you leave your troop. Females stay, but males leave. They are also known as the lovers, not the fighters. And this is the main other thing that separates them from chimpanzees. Basically, any type of conflict or anything that's going on, like they're getting it on with
anybody,
whoever's around.
Oh,
they're
right.
they're very sexual. Orangutans. People are used to saying orangutan. It's not. Orangutans, they're more solitary than they are social.
Interesting. So what you're saying is, so Planet of the Apes actually got their portrayal of chimpanzees potentially right.
I think what I liked about Planet of the Apes was the evolutionary part of it. It can happen fast and it can happen slow. So I think that's what I liked about Planet of the Apes. Ooh, not only does it involve great apes and great apes of many different types, but also it shows them like rising up and kind of being pretty cool.
Badass.
And you know, humans are faced with something that they're just not used to facing. So like what would happen? I just think it was like a really cool, grandiose like thought experiment. Gave great apes a little bit more like, we're going to look at the intelligence of these species because the intelligence there is insane.
I honestly, based on everything you've just said right now, I didn't know most of that. And obviously, I don't think that comes through in movies and the media. I don't know if they're getting that in depth.
Well, so that's actually kind of interesting because like with the new Godzilla Kong movies, right? In the original one, the first one, Kong Skull Island, he's all brown. But in the latest 2 with King Kong, he has a grayish color. And I was like, why is it? Is that because he's just like old? But I guess it's because he's just matured to silverback status, huh?
Yeah, he finally made it. Gorillas are actually known as gentle giants. They don't like conflict. They are incredibly passive aggressive. They will do whatever they can to avoid anything uncomfortable. They have so many behaviors and precursors to the aggressive things that is depicted with the screaming and yelling and the chest beating. They will try to do whatever they can to not be aggressive and to not engage in conflict.
So what about like the territorial aspect? Does that make sense?
What do you mean by territory?
Because I was always under the impression, and this is probably from watching movies like the Skarsgård Tarzan, where if you walk into the gorilla's territory, they get very territorial and aggressive because then they perceive it as a threat, which I'm guessing is totally wrong. And the territoriality that you're talking about is in relation to their troop and that's really and other gorillas, correct?
Gorillas do have a territory, a large territory, and they move throughout that territory. So we'll have a few hours of foraging and eating, but then we're going to nest here.
Oh, I have
and
another
then
question.
we'll wake up. Yeah.
Do gorillas really eat bananas?
That is one of the things that they eat because it is found there. They actually eat more leaves and browse and branches and like stripping bark off the outside, shoots, roots. They will find fruit and they will eat fruit if it is available and ripe. It also depends on the species that you're talking about because some species are found more in the lowlands and then some are found up in the higher elevations where there's going to be different food availabilities. But that's because that's what is in their area.
And
It's
never
all-
meat. They never eat meat.
No, there has been documentation of some gorilla species eating like termites.
Okay.
That is more believed to be like a cultural learned thing.
Do they ever end up in conflict with like other species, for instance, like lions? I mean, obviously, if they had to defend something, I would think so, but is that common or is that probably like a random occurrence?
They don't really have to worry about they don't really have any predators. Their infants or babies would have to worry about predators. They might encounter arboreal or like tree dwelling predators, for example, like a leopard. Most of the time they just run away. Because they're social, they have their family unit, they will circle up, protect each other. So not really with predators. They might cross paths with other great apes like chimpanzees or bonobos. It's kind of like you do your thing, we do our thing.
Yeah, okay.
Do it that way. I guess that's the best way to describe it.
Okay, another question. In every movie I've ever seen with a gorilla, including Planet of the Apes movies where there are people in gorilla costumes, they all beat their chests like Donkey Kong. Is that a true gorilla behavior, or is that just something that like...
That is a true gorilla behavior. They do that. They will beat their chest as a way to establish I'm strong, I'm dominant, I'm a formidable fighter, I'm going to defend myself, saying all the things you would want to say with chest beating. It's not just males though. Females do it. It's really fun when you see babies learning how to and they like practice. So cute. They do this like fun clapping their belly thing and that's how they like learn and you'll see them mimic the adult. It can mean other things too, like I'm getting your attention. I found something. Come over here and look at this. Some other fun things about working with gorillas, they're really smart. The connection that you get when you're doing training sessions, you could skip steps with them because they were picking things up or they could understand the gist of what you wanted them to do and they could just like put it together and then bam, you got it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really smart, very strategic. We would give them juice and we would have just like a paper cup and we would just say, flip the cup. And then we would pour the juice in the cup and they would drink. We trained them to retrieve stuff, which actually one time someone's cell phone did fall in and we were able to retrieve it. The gorilla brought it over and got reinforced positively for bringing us the phone.
No way.
When we asked them to.
Anybody get discipline there? I mean,
I think having a damaged cell phone was
the worst. That's the worst. Side note, wait, before we move on, have you ever played Phil Collins for the Gorillas? Because if you haven't, you should.
I don't think I ever did.
Do gorillas, do you ever like put movies on and then they watch movies?
Yeah.
They do?
Yeah, we did. It was actually so cute. We had a little TV. It was the one where it was like the TV with the VCR.
Yeah.
We had one for like a long time. It was used at other great ape areas and other primate areas. We thought, you know what? Let's just like use this as an option, especially when it's raining and they don't want to go outside. And we can just keep them in and give them something visual or auditory, just something. So we put on a movie. I can't remember what movie it is. And of course, the kids at the time, there was a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. They were immediately right on it. Like other kids, they have a short attention span. And so they left. And so we were like, oh, we thought that was kind of a dud. Like they only stayed for so long, a little bit of a bummer. No, he came back because we give him cardboard boxes. He came back with one of the cardboard boxes that he had been playing with and had flattened out. And he set it down in front of the TV and like got situated. And then he started watching.
That's
I'm not
amazing.
kidding you. That happened. Yeah. Like The adults, they watched for a little bit. They were just like, whatever. So would you say that after learning a little bit about gorillas and their behavior, do you think the media portrays them favorably or unfavorably?
I would say generally unfavorably. I think in a lot of movies, particularly the most popular of movies, they do come across as aggressive. You don't get that like social aspect. They can often be used as adversaries for the humans in a story.
Still amazes me.
So can you give us some like
still amazes
examples, right? Because in so many movies we see gorillas are characters because of their intelligence, right? Like, I mean, I think the Planet of the Apes movies does a great job of showing them, and I understand it's science fiction, but like, I think part of the reason why it's gorillas
Even
and
believable.
chimpanzees taking over the world as opposed to like possums is the fact that gorillas and chimpanzees are already smart to begin with, right?
I mean, I will say that films like Tarzan, I think they do a pretty good job of getting close
Really?
to showing a different, the Disney cartoon version one with,
is it more because
Phil
they show
Collins.
the familial aspect?
Yeah, Phil Collins.
Of gorillas.
I like that Dustin caught that, and that was his thing. Yeah, Phil Collins.
Yeah.
I'm talking about how they showed the gorillas. Tarzan's story aside, when you're looking at the gorillas, they actually did a pretty good job of showing like daily life, your nesting behavior at night, how they nest, how family units might interact with each other, having a silverback that,
things like that.
who did a great job of running his troop. And then also too, I would say like in watching Planet of the Apes, there are stretches there. There are stretches, but they do a pretty good job of showing great apes how smart they are.
And is that something that you think, okay, so maybe it doesn't come through in movies and media, but when people actually get a chance to go to the zoo specifically, do you think that's a much better place to get an introduction to these animals?
When you go to, they have conservation messaging and they talk about the behaviors. And when you go there, you can learn a lot. Like there's so many more behaviors and it provides like better connection.
Oh, man. All right. So, Christian, did you have any other questions or anything that you wanted to bring up specifically?
Yeah, I mean, just because I would be curious to know, Selena, like, what do you think? We have an audience of people who watch movies and make movies, and you're talking to two people who work in film. Like, I guess, what do you think are the big takeaways that if you could like wave a magic wand and say, this is what storytellers, this is what media people are doing totally wrong and need to do differently? Like,
the first thing that I would say is anytime that you are producing something that has an animal, or it is your responsibility to make sure that the welfare of that animal is okay, that it's not suffering, that it's not being mistreated, that it's not being taken advantage of, because abuse happens and it's not okay. And I think that's where technology, CGI and whatnot is really cool. As far as great apes go, great apes aren't really used, like live great apes aren't really used anymore because regulation has stopped that. And as time has gone on, great apes just aren't really seen that way anymore, which is a good thing. Like we're seeing that great apes, like chimpanzees, gorillas, these animals don't belong in human homes. These animals don't belong where they can't express their behavior as they would if they were raised by their mother. It is your responsibility to make sure that if you're producing something, that you take care of everybody involved in the best way possible. The second thing is if you're going to portray gorillas and you're going to portray a diversity of behavior.
Definitely.
And then the third thing is if you're going to have gorillas in a film, or if you're going to be involving them in some way, try to, give a shout out to organizations, conservation organizations that are making a difference out there. One of the things that made Dwayne Johnson one of my favorite people, and I started following him and I started like really respecting him more, was when he did the movie Rampage. He actually went to Zoo Atlanta, because Zoo Atlanta is They have the highest population of gorillas. They do so much research. They work with Diane Fossey. Like the Institute is there in Atlanta. The zoo and them have a very close relationship. He actually went to Zoo Atlanta and spent time with the gorilla keepers and gorilla management and learned about gorillas and how they are. How cool is that? That this celebrity took the time to learn this. And he also saw like what keepers do for their job. It's not an easy job. You are cleaning, you are moving, you are prepping diets, you are training. You also have to watch your troop to make sure that if something does happen, you're not going to intervene because it is not our place to intervene. They have their troop. They got to figure their stuff out because we are not always there. But you got to know what's going on with the animals that you are taking care of. You have to know socially what's going on. You got to document it. You got to take your notes. So you got to be in tune with their behavior because if something's wrong, you want to catch it right away. It's really, really hard. So for him to like take the time to actually learn about being a zookeeper and what that looks like, but also learn about this animal more, I'm going to educate myself more. I'm going to create that connection. And when you have a better connection, you can understand better. And when you understand, you care more. And when you care, you want to protect what you care about. I'm going to go just a little like thing here, a little passionate thing real quick. Animals, plants, life, nature, it's a system. There's a system out there. We benefit from that system. And every animal, every plant, everything out there has a purpose, has a role that they are filling. Gorillas have a role to fill in the wild. They live in the rainforest in Africa. Is our lungs, right? The rainforests are the lungs for the planet.
Yeah.
They're kind of like an umbrella species. What they do and how they do it in the wild affects the ecological system or the ecology, the nature system that they live in. When they forage, when they eat, and they're tearing down limbs from trees and they're like pulling roots up and stuff, they are pretty destructive in a short amount of time. And that opens up pathways for other animals to like walk through easier in this dense forest. It also opens up the forest floor to get more sunlight in those areas so that other things can grow and get regenerated, oxygen in the soil. They're seed dispersers. So they eat things and then it passes through their system. They go poop and there are seeds in their poop, but it's from really, really far away because they can go miles and miles in one day. So they're seed dispersing. You know, they eat specialty plants that prune trees and shrubs that allow that plant to then thrive and grow, right? So it's not like these animals aren't just like here. They're doing things and we are benefiting from that. You really want to try to make that connection so that people start to give a shit, really. Like my point.
Yeah.
There are things that you can do. The number one thing, especially since we're doing this for World Gorilla Day, the number one thing that I would say you could do today is recycle your cell phones or recycle electronics.
Okay.
There is a really cool website. It's called EcoCell. And this is an organization. They take electronics and they recycle them. Now, the reason why this is so important is because in your cell phones, in your electronics, your tablets, all those fun things that we all have and we all use, there's something in it called coltan. It's COLTAN. And it's a mineral. Where do you think that mineral is mined?
I do not know.
In the Congo.
Okay.
In Democratic Republic of Congo, where gorillas are found. So our cell phones,
millions of cell phones,
are being mined in Africa, in equatorial Africa, where gorillas are found. So if you recycle your cell phones, if you recycle your electronics, that's what this company does. That's one of the things that they do is they make it so less has to get mined.
Yeah.
If we all recycled our cell phones or our electronics, like that would make a real world impact, like there. So you're making a difference. If you go to ecocell.com, they do have a map on there. Most zoos have electronic recycling where you can take your stuff to the zoo, put it in. You just helped change the world just a little bit. You just made it a little bit better. It truly does make a difference.
Well, we all have a cell phone, so.
We all have a cell phone. And it's not just, if you go on the website too, it's not just cell phones, tablets, smartwatches. They'll take the cords too.
So cords even, okay.
Yeah, and it's all listed on the website. It's very easy to navigate. And in honor of World Gorilla Day, one of the organizations, if you were to donate any cell phones or electronics that you have, one of the organizations that would benefit from this is called Gorilla Rehabilitation and Conservation Education. It's called GRACE for short. They are a wonderful organization that is located in Democratic Republic of Congo, and their mission is to protect and save endangered gorillas, which is a species of gorilla. When you think of a gorilla, you think of a Growers gorilla. They're there doing the work. They have rescued and rehabilitated gorillas, and they're working within the community to help the community. It's also an organization that is very near and dear to my heart. I've been volunteering with them for a while, but in grad school, a lot of my projects have been in collaboration with Grace and helping their programs have more of an impact.
Sure.
So I would recommend going and checking out that website. They're great. They're truly making a difference. We want communities to be involved, and that's the direction that things are going in. We like it, and we want that.
Awesome.
I'm done with my passion. I'm climbing off my pedestal now.
No, that's
well, Selena, yeah, we'll throw it over to you. Do you have any final thoughts or any shout outs or anything that you would like to, I guess, just say at the end of the episode?
Research has shown that people do change their behavior after they see something depicted in a certain way. So if you're scrolling through Facebook or you're scrolling through Instagram and you see something involving an animal, so if you were to just hashtag respect the wildlife and tag Respect the Wildlife Alliance, that is basically an organization that works on how the media portrays wildlife. And they would look at it and they would address it in a way that has been successful for all parties.
Gotcha.
So that's another actionable thing that we can do here that would make a difference.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. I mean, obviously people get called out or different things depending on what type of media they're posting. But I mean, the ability to sort of step in and step up in a way that, like you said, is beneficial to everybody. I mean, people are excited probably a lot of times to share media or whatever it is that they have of animals. They're probably going to share whatever is like the most actionable moment. It's not always representative of exactly what I think people might want the animals to be represented.
The people who do know need to address it. And through social media is one of the ways that you can do that, because it not only protects the animal, but it also protects people. Hashtag respect the wildlife and tag Respect the Wildlife Alliance.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. This was a learning experience for me, but also a ton of fun. You know, hopefully gives everybody a different perspective on gorillas, primates, and even animals in movies. It's just such a pleasure to have you come on the show.
Thank you for having me on the show. I hope we all had fun and we all learned a little bit. And if someone has discovered a passion and a love for primates or great apes, or they just have any more additional questions or they want to link up, I will absolutely leave you my contact information and you can pass that along.
All right. Well, that does it for our episode this week. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope you really enjoyed the show. Please send us feedback and any additional questions you have for Selena. She would be more than happy to answer them. And also be sure to continue the conversation. Let us know if you liked this style of episode, because it was a lot of fun for us. You can follow the show at filmmakerscompass.com, where we have a feed of all of our previous episodes, including this one, and our social media channels at Film Comp Podcast or at Film Comp Pod. You can follow me at Big Kid D-Man and CP.
You can follow me at NDCal5. Thank you for hanging out and talking movies and gorillas with us. And we see you back here next week. Until then, keep watching movies.